Happy Day Coffee had been Henry's pride and joy for many years. It had grown from one simple coffee shop to a business with many different locations. It was a lot to keep track of, especially with how many employees he had. Luckily, all his coffee shops were doing well, at least, except for one. Happy Day Coffee Illinois seemed to have a lot less profit than his other chains. Henry had tried to figure out how that could be. But before we start, don't forget to subscribe, like, and hit the notification bell for more amazing stories. He had his suspicions, but he couldn't act on them without proof. That was why he decided to go to the coffee shop and experience firsthand how things were run there. His assistant was in on his plan, but she wasn't shy of expressing her doubts. However, she did help him with his disguise, as it was her job after all. He grew a mustache and even dyed his hair darker to look like a different person. His assistant dressed him casually so he wouldn't seem too posh, and he even borrowed her car to park in front of the shop. When it was finally time for Henry to drive to the coffee shop, his heart was racing. He had never done anything like this before, and he hoped they wouldn't recognize him as soon as he would step into the building. He knew a lot of the employees in Illinois were new, so they had probably never seen him before, which was a good thing. But still, the excitement coursed through his body as he pulled up to the shop. It seemed to be very busy inside, because there was even a line outside to get in. Henry neatly scribbled this all into his notebook to review later. He wondered if it was always this busy. If it were, that would mean his suspicions were right. After waiting in his car for the line to get smaller, he decided he wasn't going to wait all day. So he walked to the end of the line and joined. Slowly, the line shrunk. Every customer that came out of the store looked happy and satisfied, not at all how he had expected. Once inside, the coffee shop felt warm and welcoming, as it should. Henry sat down at one of the tables by the window and waited to be served. He had prepared himself for a long wait, but a server quickly appeared at his table. While he waited for his coffee, Henry looked around the coffee shop. Everything was clean, no customer seemed disappointed, and all the plants were still alive. There was truly nothing that would explain the low profit of this place. When Carter came back to his table to bring Henry his order, he started a bit of small talk to hopefully learn more about the work environment. Carter told Henry that he was the manager, that he loved working at the coffee shop, and that all his colleagues were just as happy as he was. There was nothing to complain about, but that still didn't explain why this coffee shop wasn't making enough money. So Henry asked for the check. It was time for the final step of his plan. There wasn't a moment of rest in this coffee shop. While Henry waited for Carter to bring him his check, he realized he wanted to go to even more locations to see how things were run there. Suddenly, something caught his eye. Behind the counter, one of the employees looked around very suspiciously and then ducked down out of sight. Henry waited for the employee to come back up again, but it took quite a while. When the employee finally did, she acted like nothing had happened, and no one else seemed to have noticed. This was a little odd to Henry, so he made sure to write it in his notebook. Finally, Carter returned with his bill. "Here you go, Sir," Carter kindly said as he placed a little metal tray on Henry's table. Now it all had to come down to Henry's acting skills. He reached for his pocket and suddenly gasped. Right when Henry was about to spill the beans about his wallet, a loud beep from the cash register snatched Carter's attention. He excused himself and dashed towards the register. An older lady was trying to pay, but her card kept getting declined. Carter's focus was all on solving her problem, making sure she didn't feel embarrassed about the mishap. Carter handled the situation with grace, assisting the older lady with an alternative payment method. He even shared a joke to lighten the mood, and soon, laughter filled the air. Watching from his table, Henry saw Carter's dedication to making customers feel valued, forgetting his own predicament for a moment. Sitting alone, Henry felt a mix of admiration and worry. Carter was out there making a difference, while Henry was stuck in his seat, unsure how to proceed. He glanced around, taking in the busy coffee shop and Carter's effortless management of the situation. It was clear Carter was more than just a manager, he was a leader. Feeling a bit braver, Henry decided it was time to get closer to the action. He got up from his table, his heart pounding a bit faster. As he walked towards the cash register, he couldn't help but wonder how Carter would react to his wallet situation now. It was a test not just for Carter, but for Henry as well. Approaching the register, Henry watched as Carter wrapped up with the last customer, his mind racing with possibilities. How would he explain his situation? Would Carter see through his disguise? Henry was about to step into unknown territory, but he knew one thing for sure: Carter's response would be something to remember. As Henry inched closer to the register, a low murmur caught his ear. A couple of employees, hidden slightly by a shelf of coffee beans, were venting about their wages. "Can you believe we're still making this much after a year?" one whispered to the other. Their frustration was palpable, and Henry found himself unintentionally leaning in, intrigued by their conversation. Just as Henry was about to catch more of the conversation, Carter's voice cut through the air. "Sir, ready when you are," he called out, gesturing to Henry. The sudden interruption made Henry straighten up, cutting short his eavesdropping. The employees quickly went back to work, as if nothing had happened, leaving Henry to wonder about the depth of their dissatisfaction. Henry cleared his throat, facing Carter with an awkward chuckle. "I've forgotten my wallet," he mumbled, bracing for a backlash. Carter's face was unreadable, making Henry's heart race. The buzz of the coffee shop seemed to fade into the background as he awaited Carter's reaction, feeling like he was under a spotlight. Carter's pause stretched on, thickening the air with tension. Henry shifted from one foot to the other, trying to gauge any hint of annoyance or understanding from Carter's expression. The silence was deafening, leaving Henry to wonder if he had crossed a line in his attempt to test his employee's integrity. Finally, Carter spoke, his voice calm. "Please wait here," he said before turning to disappear into the back room. Henry blinked, taken aback by Carter's lack of immediate reaction and mysterious departure. He was left standing alone, with only his thoughts for company, pondering what Carter might be planning. As Henry waited, he observed the busy coffee shop, now feeling more like an outsider than ever. Customers continued to flow in and out, unaware of the CEO's inner turmoil. Henry's mind raced with possibilities. What was Carter doing? Was he angry, or perhaps thinking of a way to resolve the situation gracefully? Feeling uneasy with the growing line behind him and Carter's prolonged absence, Henry made a decision. He excused himself past the other customers and headed towards the back room, determined to find Carter and address the situation head-on. His curiosity and concern for how this test of integrity would conclude propelled him forward, stepping into the unknown. With a quick glance to ensure no one was watching, Henry slipped into the back room. The change in atmosphere was immediate, from the lively buzz of the coffee shop to the quiet, functional space of the employees. He moved swiftly, driven by the urgency to find Carter and resolve the situation that had escalated far beyond a simple forgotten wallet. Inside, Henry paused, listening for any sign of Carter. He moved towards a slightly ajar door, from which Carter's voice could be heard. The conversation seemed intense, and Henry hesitated at the threshold, unsure of his next move. The urge to understand what was happening on the other side of the door urged him closer, curiosity mingling with his sense of responsibility. Henry pressed his ear to the gap in the door, catching fragments of Carter's conversation. Words like donations and community floated through, alongside the mention of giving away free coffee to the homeless. Henry pieced together the outlines of Carter's actions, realizing there was a depth to his employees' initiatives he had not anticipated. Just as Henry decided to retreat, an employee walked into the back room, nearly bumping into him. Startled, Henry stammered out an excuse, claiming he was looking for the bathroom. The employee eyed him curiously but didn't question further, pointing him in the direction of the actual bathroom. Taking the employee's directions, Henry found the bathroom and entered, locking the door behind him. He took a moment to collect his thoughts, using the time to cement his cover story. If anyone asked, he had simply taken a wrong turn on the way to the bathroom. With a deep breath, Henry prepared to step back into the coffee shop, his mind racing with the new insights he had gained. Henry returned to the register, finding Carter waiting with a patient look. The air was filled with unspoken questions, but now Henry had a deeper understanding of Carter's actions. Despite the awkwardness of his forgotten wallet, Henry felt a newfound respect for Carter, complicating his initial intention to simply test his employee's integrity. Carter broke the silence first. "Thanks for waiting," he said, a hint of empathy in his voice. "I know this is a bit unusual," Henry nodded, appreciating Carter's acknowledgement of the situation. It was a small gesture, but it spoke volumes about Carter's character, adding layers to the already complex scenario. When Carter suggested a possible solution to the wallet issue, Henry quickly invented a distance to his house that would make any temporary solution impractical. "It's quite a drive back." Henry lied, hoping to steer the conversation away from any personal favors that might further blur the lines of their professional relationship. Carter paused, clearly torn. He wanted to help, but also seemed to understand the boundaries of their current interaction. After a moment, he made up his mind, his face setting into a determined look. Henry watched, intrigued by the visible struggle Carter underwent before arriving at his decision. Finally, Carter leaned in slightly, lowering his voice. "Follow me, please," he said, hinting at a resolution that didn't involve the typical exchange of money. Henry, intrigued by this turn of events, followed Carter's lead, curious about how he planned to address the forgotten wallet without a conventional transaction. This unexpected invitation added another layer of mystery to the day's unfolding events. Henry, with curiosity piqued, trailed behind Carter, winding through the coffee shop to a door marked "Employees Only," pushing it open. Carter stepped aside, allowing Henry to enter first into the break room. The air was filled with the scent of coffee and a hint of mischief from Carter's preceding smile. Carter gestured towards a sink piled high with dishes. "How about working off your coffee?" he suggested, his face straight but eyes twinkling. Henry stopped dead in his tracks, his mind racing. Was Carter serious? The proposal seemed outlandish, yet there was a part of Henry that wondered if this was truly the solution Carter had in mind. The room's tension skyrocketed as Henry weighed his response. He glanced from the dishes back to Carter, searching for any sign that this was indeed a serious request. The idea of a CEO washing dishes in his own coffee shop was both humbling and surreal, leaving Henry in a state of bewildered contemplation. Henry's silence stretched on, a testament to his internal debate over the proposed dishwashing. He was about to voice his thoughts when he noticed a slight quiver in Carter's lips. The atmosphere was charged with expectation, the outcome of this unusual offer yet to be revealed. Suddenly, Carter burst into laughter, the sound filling the small room. "I'm just kidding," he exclaimed, clapping Henry on the back. The tension dissolved, though Henry was left with a mix of relief and lingering uncertainty. Carter's joke had lightened the mood, but Henry couldn't shake off the feeling that this day had taken him on an unexpected journey, far beyond what he had planned. While the laughter faded, Henry's eagerness to settle the payment issue without further jest was evident. He straightened up, signaling his readiness to move past the humor and find a real solution. Carter, catching on to Henry's mood, nodded, understanding the shift back to the matter at hand was necessary. Henry couldn't mask his frustration over the brief detour into jest. He appreciated a good joke, but the situation at hand was pressing. He conveyed his need for a serious resolution, hoping Carter would recognize the urgency of the matter without further delay. The conversation steered towards genuinely resolving the payment issue. Carter, now fully aware of Henry's desire for closure, began outlining a proposal that seemed to account for the unique circumstances of the day. Henry listened intently, hopeful that this conversation would finally provide the resolution he sought, eager to see how his accidental test of integrity would conclude. Carter, with a serious tone, finally addressed the issue. "Don't worry about the coffee," he said, dismissing the payment altogether. This unexpected resolution sparked Henry's interest even more, hinting at depth to Carter's character and the decisions he made running the coffee shop. This decision led Carter to share about his contributions to the local homeless shelter, explaining how for every coffee sold, he also gave one to the homeless. Henry listened, intrigued by the unexpected revelation, as Carter detailed his commitment to giving back to the community in this unique way. As Henry inquired further, Carter opened up about the logistics of distributing extra coffee to those in need. This practice not only highlighted Carter's generosity, but also provided Henry with a clearer picture of how the coffee shop's profits were being utilized in a socially responsible manner. Henry began to understand the bigger picture, connecting Carter's charitable actions with the discrepancies in the shop's profits. The realization dawned on him that the lower-than-expected financial returns were a direct result of Carter's decision to support the homeless, showcasing a sacrifice for the sake of community welfare. Carter, sensing Henry's newfound understanding, elaborated on his motivations. He spoke of his values and the impact he hoped to make, revealing a profound sense of responsibility towards those less fortunate. This conversation illuminated Carter's character in a new light, providing Henry with insight into the genuine compassion driving the shop's operations. Henry, profoundly moved by Carter's selfless actions, began to reconsider his earlier doubts about the shop's performance. The revelation of Carter's charity work forced Henry to see beyond mere numbers, acknowledging the invaluable impact of giving back to the community. Feeling a strong connection to Carter's principles, Henry decided it was time to reveal his true identity. "I'm actually the CEO of Happy Day Coffee," he admitted, watching closely for Carter's reaction. This moment of truth marked a turning point in their conversation, bridging the gap between employer and employee. Carter's response was a complex blend of surprise and worry. The shock of learning Henry's true identity quickly gave way to concern over what this revelation might mean for the shop's charitable actions. Would this new understanding compromise the initiative he held so dear? Henry found himself deeply considering the delicate balance between running a profitable business and fulfilling social responsibilities. Carter's dedication to the community had ignited a spark in Henry, prompting him to reevaluate the company's priorities and how they could genuinely make a difference. Motivated by Carter's example, Henry resolved to support and integrate the Coffee for the Homeless initiative into Happy Day Coffee's broader mission. He saw this as an opportunity to redefine the company's impact, aligning business success with social contribution and laying the groundwork for a future where profit and purpose could coexist harmoniously. Henry made the decision to not only support but also involve Carter directly in expanding the charity initiative across Happy Day Coffee. This move marked a significant shift in the company's direction, aiming to blend its business model with a strong commitment to social responsibility, thereby setting a new standard for the company's future operations. By endorsing the charity initiative, Henry signaled a profound commitment to incorporating social responsibility into the core of Happy Day Coffee. This endorsement was not just a statement but a pledge to integrate giving back into every cup of coffee sold, reinforcing the company's dedication to making a positive impact on the community.